RPO staffing tends to adopt and run through technology and test way faster than corporate TA.
What's happening in real life is every CEO is going to every CHRO and they're saying, how much money can you save me with AI?
Every time I start getting into conversations about anything AI and recruiting, I first have to go into like this 15-minute conversation about what like AI they really are talking about.
And what an agent's job is, it's not to give you a response like an LLM, it's to complete a task.
Can I leave an agent for my kids so that when I'm gone and they miss dad or they have a question, instead of just going and Googling it or going to GPT or whatever, they could ask dad?
I think that's going to be the same thing that happens with Agentic. A services company can go in and do that. And we're already being asked by our clients right now to put them on a path to automation. So, I can think of 3 proposals in the last 3 months where we have decreasing cost of RPO because we've automated bigger chunks of the process. So each year we're automating more and more and more, and we're bringing that client along and showing them how to do it.
Like I can bring that ghosting rate down super low, just again, through automation, where it's the perception that, holy crap, this company really wants me.
You run into a recruiter that has really leaned into the tech and like, oh man, they're the best recruiter on the planet. They're producing way more.
Hey everybody, it's Tim Sackett. I'm back with another edition of HR Famous. And in this episode, we have a very special guest. I say that every time that I have a guest. Jason Roberts, I think you're the head of like technology transformation, something for Cielo, which is one of the largest RPOs globally in the world. Give me your real title.
Yeah, I'm the SVP of Technology and Analytics.
Bam.
So,
there you go.
Yeah.
So
good stuff.
They took to 2 things that HR people are the worst at, technology and data, and said, let's just hire one dude that is going to be head of all of this.
Yeah, I happen to be good at those things. So they brought me in, but I still tell people I'm a recruiter. Like I still feel like a recruiter at heart.
Yeah.
Though I haven't slung Rex in a little while. It just feels like that's the root of it. And if you're building technology for recruiters, it's better to think of yourself as a recruiter, right?
Yep. And so you're Cielo, I think for the most part, it's a remote company, right?
Yeah. We're we'll be on client site oftentimes, but most of us sit, working from home or whatever.
Yeah. Where are you located? Where does this pod find you? Dallas, which was where we ran into each other.
Yeah.
At HireEZ's Hoedown. There was so many people there, and so like everyone's talking shop, and where I'm like, all right, I need to bring you on, talk shop, and we're going to talk about AI and obviously the RPO staffing world and all kinds of different stuff today. But I told you I have an idea for an agent.
Okay, let's start.
So here's my agent idea that I need, and this is just personal. Like I think the best things in tech are built when you need it personally.
Okay.
So you know how we have all these reminders that pop up everywhere in our life. And I'm sure like most of us, we run on multiple screens.
Right.
And I'm just a heads down person. So I start working on something on a screen and I could have the other screen could have fire flames coming up and vibrating the laptop, and it does not faze me. I'm still going to be working over here.
Right.
I need an agent to say, hey, dummy, you need to be on this call. There's a call starting. And you're like, so I will pay attention to my phone. And so I need an agent that will actually just call me and go, hey, you're a dummy. You have a call starting in 3 minutes and you don't look like you're ready for it.
So you need to build magware.
Was that what it is? I have no idea what I need to build. It's that, or I need to hire an executive, assistant.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's one way to go. No, so there's a tool. This is, if you want to build an agent, you can.
Yeah.
So there's a tool that I'm tinkering with right now called it's .io.
Okay.
And just think of it like it's like if this then that on steroids. So it has the API connections for anything you can imagine, including OpenAI. So you set up an OpenAI API connection, and you can you wire it all up. And you can really make an agent that does anything. And then you can make agents that tap into other agents that do things for you.
Yeah.
So you could do a thing like on Telegram, you could say, hey, schedule some time with Jason. And it will go look at your calendar agent, look at your free time, your available time, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Then it will go and send an email to me and say, here's when Tim is free. When would you like to meet?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I reply back, it's looking at your email agent for a reply. And then when I say, here's the time I want, it will book the call for you.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between an agent and just like ChatGPT, right? So ChatGPT, you would say something like, and the LLMs, because I think people don't understand agents yet.
For sure. No,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's start there because I think it's a common thing that every time I start getting into conversations about anything AI and recruiting, I first have to go into like this 15-minute conversation about what like AI they really are talking about.
Yeah. No,
And
100%.
people go, I don't like it's all the same. You're like, no, it's not. There's three really kind of different buckets within what we work with in terms of product that, are going to have an impact. But
Yeah, that's 100% the deal. So like the LLMs, you might say, write an email to Jason that said for a meeting.
yeah.
And it will write a beautiful email that doesn't
Yeah.
sound like you at all, but
Yep.
or maybe if you trained it right,
Yeah.
it'll sound like you.
You could tell like angry Tim, happy Tim,
That's right. That's right.
reflective Tim.
But it'll do that. But as soon as you say, tell Jason when I'm free, it can't do it. It's broken. Right.
No. Yeah.
So the difference, in comes agents. With an agent, it works with the LLMs. You're making a request, but then it has a bunch of tools and you
Yeah.
connect up all these different tools. And what an agent's job is, it's not to give you a response like an LLM, it's to complete a task. So if you just say book a meeting, it goes and it will go through a series of tasks looking at different tools that it has available to it and deciding the best path in order to do that. It will decide on its own to write an email to me to
Yep.
ask available times because it knows that that's required in order to schedule a meeting. So it just does the thing. And then the outcome is we have a meeting scheduled.
Yep.
So yeah, you can totally, like you could do a thing that says, that triggers on, meeting starts in 15 minutes or something like from Google.
Yeah.
And then have it blast out like a message on all of your devices. Like,
Yeah. It just like,
yeah,
you have 3 minutes before this meeting starts. Like that's,
yeah,
I just need something like that. I'm anti Calendly, any kind of like, people always say that they're like, oh, send me your Calendly. And
I
I'm
hate
just,
that.
nope. I don't want yours. I don't want mine. Because here's my thing. I know if I had it, I actually have a Calendly account. I never use it
Yeah.
because I know if I had it, I would be overbooked constantly. And without it, then all of a sudden now I got to look at my calendar and I have to go, I got time Wednesday, but I still want to do that thing. And then I go back, I have 1.5 hour segment right here and I send them that. Like, will this work? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. You want some space too. Like you want to space out stuff. No, well, in a company, you've got teams or whatever, and you can see everybody's
yes.
stuff. But
Yeah.
so I stay triple booked all the time. That said, it is my pet peeve when somebody sends me an email and says, "Hey, when are you free?" For God's sake, you've got like 12 ways to see when I'm free. Go look. You should look and see. And don't ask me that question again. And then the other thing is, if there's a sales guy that sends me a deal that says, here's my Calendly link. Wait, what now? You want me to go book time with you? No,
No,
no, no.
the thing I hate now is when they just send you the calendar invite for 15 minutes and you have no idea who they are. They're just hoping that you'll accept it because we all get so many of these during the
Yeah.
day. We just accept stuff. And I'm immediately like, that's junk, like blocked, like you are dead to be the rest of your life.
So I accept those. Well, I shouldn't say that out loud here. Dang it. No,
You accept them and then don't show up.
well, so I'll accept them. And then if it's one that I'm like, I don't know what this is, then I'll take a quick look. Copilot does a cool thing where it gives you all the context right there
Yeah.
on the screen.
Yeah.
So I'll look for context. If I don't have any context, then I cancel and say, hey, what was this about?
You
but I
should just
can't till last
accept it
second.
and then send your agent, the Jason agent, to go do the meeting. Hi, I'm Jason.
Well, that's possible now. That's
Yeah,
possible now. Like, I've got like, I don't know, I've got 100 YouTube videos that exist of me out there.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I can point an agent to my YouTube videos, have it pull all the transcripts automatically, then have it sit in a repository of information, and then whenever somebody asks a question, answer based on things that I've said before.
yeah,
So you never have to repeat yourself.
yeah. Well, no, and the nice thing, like, again, we take a look at all the content. So, like, I'm one of those content guys too. Over the last 20 years, I mean, thousands of blog posts, videos, like all of this
Yeah,
content that's out there. In my idea would be to actually have an agent. For me, it's more lifelike, where you go, what about, like, you see all these old people that a spouse dies and they're by themselves most of the day.
yeah.
And you could actually build agents of their spouse or significant other that lives with them and that they could have conversations with all day like they do now.
I think
Like, it
about this
it
with
would
my kids.
it would be no different. I think the
Yeah,
same thing is, like, can I leave an agent for my kids so that when I'm gone and they miss dad or they have a question, instead of just going and Googling it or going to GPT or whatever, they could ask dad, just ask dad,
hey, it worked for Superman, right?
right?
Superman, like right there in the Fortress of Solitude, he just
Yeah.
put the little crystal in. That was the
Yep.
Jor-El crystal, and he would be like, "Hey, Dad, what's going on?" And who's the guy that played him? It was like the Godfather.
I
Uh,
yeah.
can't remember.
Well,
Anyway,
remember, iRobot had the same kind of thing where it had limit, like, it would go, they would ask a question, we like, my responses are limited to like answering a question or whatever, or whatever. But like, it would actually talk to them like in this real kind of way. And again, we see the agents now, the interview and the reasoning behind it. And I'm like, I could teach an agent to be me and respond like me, have my voice, look like me, everything, right? And you're just like, I'm talking to dad for the most part. I mean, if you
yeah,
have enough content, there would be
I
so
think that's where we're
little
going.
differentiation. Yeah.
I think there will like the new version of those legacy boxes that you can like send all the old pictures into and all that.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the new version is going to be
Suck in
like
all your content. Yeah.
digital version of your loved ones that
Yeah.
exist in there. Yeah,
And and I know there's a certain amount that you have to have. So like, even with like you say, like those legacy box things, if somebody wasn't, like, you had a grandfather, someone that's never been online, doesn't have a
hmm
Facebook, there's probably like 8 or 10 hours of video that you would take, like, where you just ask them a bunch of questions and then you just upload it all and again, bam, you just built your agent, right? Like, you're just
yeah.
like, here we go.
Well, can you
And
imagine that? Like we did a thing. Like my family, my great grandmother was alive when I was alive, and I remember there was a time where my uncle sat down my great grandmother and my great grandfather and just asked some questions about our
yeah,
family and the history
yep,
and all that stuff. And it's on these old reel to reel tapes. Like it's not even like it was pre video camera when this
yeah.
happened. This is how old I am. So it was pre video camera. So there's these videos of my ancestors that exist that I could do that with. I may do that actually. That sounds like
I
a cool thing.
We had a similar thing when my wife's grandmother passed. We found like this box of like old reel to reel movies, right? And they had the projector and like, and so we actually put one on. So like we did it during Christmas holiday when everybody was home. And so, like, we're just in the living room one night watching one of these dumb videos, and again, they're so, like, it's like the whole thing you thought of, like, reel to reel. It's clicky and like someone's just
Yeah.
at a car going, you know,
Yeah.
waving. And all of a sudden, in the middle of one of these, all of a sudden, like this kind of old school, we called we say pornography. It wasn't really pornography. It was more of like this dancing woman, like was, and she was fully like scantily clothed like the time, but we all of a sudden we were just like, what is going on here? Like grandpa had some stupid, he probably got it together in the garage with his boys and they're like, let's watch the girl in the bikini.
I love that. That is
And like,
awesome.
we told all the kids they had to leave the room, and they were all like, why? It's just some lady in a bikini.
That's your grandma.
Is that grandma? Like everyone's like running. No, it's not.
Yep.
All right. I have like 3 things I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
The first one is this kind of future of RPO staffing,
Mhm.
which you and I have been in this business for a while. I'm on the staffing side, you're on the RPO side, but like in recruiting in general, RPO staffing tends to adopt and run through technology and test way faster than corporate TA.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. One of the things we have to be is faster
Mm-hmm.
than our corporate brothers and sisters out there. And so when you take a look at what's happening with AI and you go down the path, 18, 36 months from now, what does RPO and staffing turn into?
Well,
And without giving away your secret sauce of where you're going.
no, I'm fine. We have press releases for that, so I'm fine telling what we're doing, where we're going. No, RPO is in actually a really good spot right now. I think we're about to see a renaissance for RPO, and
Okay.
the reason is that the agentic revolution that's coming. We're going to hear agentic way more than we want to
Yes.
by the end of this year.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
new buzzword. Everybody's releasing their agentic stuff.
Drink. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're at a conference, you have to drink every time someone says agentic. You're going to be drunk by 9 a.m.
By noon. Yeah, it's going to be a problem. So no, agentic is going to be everywhere. But what's happening in real life is every CEO is going to every CHRO and they're saying, how much money can you save me with AI? Right. And it's the exact same that happened. It's what happened when we had offshoring. So when we all went offshore, this was a long time ago, but I was around for that one too. So we all moved things offshore, and most companies needed a partner to do that because they're not offshoring experts. Somebody had to do that. Now, I think that's going to be the same thing that happens with agentic. There will be some who decide to build their own stuff. There will be some who lean on their tech partner, but their tech partner won't be robust or complete enough on the full circle. So a services company is ideal. A services company can go in and do that. And we're already being asked by our clients right now to put them on a path to automation. So, I can think of 3 proposals in the last 3 months where we have decreasing cost of RPO because we've automated bigger chunks of the process. So each year we're automating more and more and more, and we're bringing that client along and showing them how to do it. And there's one of our longstanding clients that said, "Hey, we need to do this. Our business is on a mission to go 50%." Their CEO has given them the 50% challenge. They were like, "How do we do that?" So we put them on a plan. They're a longstanding customer, and we put them on a plan to move to 50% AI driven recruiting, right? And I think we initially did a 5-year plan, but in real life, I think it's going to move faster. It's going to move probably in 3.
That's everything I see with like that stuff. It just seems to be moving so much faster than what we had normally saw. Kind of this history of automation over the last probably 20 years in like TA.
Yeah, it's so I think RPO is in a really, really good spot to be that partner, right? The partner that helps them get to that place. And you're right, we do get to play with more stuff. I'm using every ATS. If you could see the spread of ATSs, and we're just like everybody else. We're a really good microcosm of the market. So like a third of all of our clients are on Workday, and just under 20% are on SuccessFactors. If you look at the actual breakdown, we're almost exactly the same. But we've got a super long tail. We've got lots of them that are onesie twosies. So I've got people on Lawson still, and I've got people on
PeopleSoft,
Greenhouse. Thank goodness the last PeopleSoft one's done. But yeah, so we've got this long tail, and also the ancillary tools. We get to try everything, and we have deep partnerships. Like we place big bets with big players, like the people that we think are going to be the best in class. Like I think that Paradox has won in the chat bot process automation space. There are a few different contenders there, but Paradox took that market and is really the winner. Well, we're the exclusive implementation partner for Paradox, right? So we put them in all sorts of places. And then you've got other winners, like I think HireEZ is emerging as the winner in that sourcing search aggregation space. I think they're doing some really smart stuff. They finally took my advice. Steven finally took my advice. I was like, dude, you are a CRM. You're almost everything you need in a CRM, but you also bring your own candidates. That's who you should compete against. And he finally puts out a CRM product.
Yeah.
And so he's doing that, and he's got
But
these agentic
not
stuff.
like for me, it was always too is like the reason we have such a low adoption in CRM is because the CRMs that were full blown CRMs were just too complex, and you had to have a full recruitment marketing team to run them.
Yeah.
They weren't meant for a recruiter, and that's why I think when you take a look at what they built, it's more of the CRM, light, even though it's full CRM, but it's something a recruiter can actually use on a daily basis, and that to me was the big kind of differentiator there.
Yeah, I watched your cast with Chris that you did after Phenom,
Yeah.
and I was like, man, they're a full Kool-Aid drinking mode right now. Like nobody raised the fact that Phenom best in class logins is 11%. Like, yeah, people put in this giant system and nobody uses it.
Hey, when you're a tech nerd, you get geeked out for the new tech coming, and you're like seeing stuff, and you're like, hey, if this works half as good as what you just showed on the demo, this is going to be amazing.
So it's like not quite 10% as good as what they showed. So that's the real life. And then it only works if people actually use it, which is the other part.
Yeah, no, that's all of this tech, right? But I
Yeah.
want to get back to like this kind of what you see as the future of RPO, because we're aligned on the staffing side as well. I take a look at 36 months down the road, and there's a lot of staffing can be completely gone. Or like what I foresee is I'm going to be able to build an automated stack that I can resell like an on-off switch to SMB mid-enterprise where the RPO doesn't really play, right?
Yeah.
Because they could never afford to do it themselves, and technically they're probably not sophisticated enough to do it themselves either.
Yeah.
And I can put it together. I can have 100 clients, and so I'm spreading my cost of the stack and the expense of the stack, and then making margin on top of it. And I'm going to give this on-off switch to companies that need to hire, right? And again, at a fraction of probably what traditional staffing is, that will give them 85% of the way there.
I think the long tail, I think you can probably do that. I think perm placement is pretty much going to die. I don't think perm placement is
the only thing I would say there is you're always going to have this really strong relationship-based kind of recruiting, because there's always going to be a segment of the market that's not active, or you somehow just can't get a hold of them, or they're not even there. Where if I'm in a marketplace, in a local marketplace, and I go and I have all these great relationships, and I have someone that goes, hey, I need a CMO, or I need a director of finance, or I need a whatever. And you're like, I know, like I can dig to find these people. I'm a sniper, not a farmer kind of thing.
And also I know a guy. Like I placed a guy 10 years ago. Yes. He's probably ready for that one now.
Completely network relationship based. Yeah. It's a little old school. It's like going back and recruiting in the 80s. You know?
Well, that's what it is. I think you can pick off some stuff on the periphery, probably. And there's always going to be executive search. I don't think exec search ever goes away. And I think so. Top of the pyramid, you'll probably have some stuff there. Bottom of the pyramid is the like high volume campus stuff. Yeah. And that I think stays about where it is right now. Like it's refused to evolve for so many years. I think it's going.
By the way, we could do an entire pod on why college recruitment still sucks. And again, I've talked to the Handshake folks, and I think they could have owned it. I talked to the LinkedIn. LinkedIn should own it. They haven't ever.
No, they really should.
The Handshake people think they're probably deeper than what they really are. And here's what you and I both know, this is like the campus teams. If I'm an engineering manager at General Motors, all I want to know is I want to know every electrical engineering grad coming out of University of Michigan this year or this semester.
Right.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
And the school won't tell you. Handshake can't tell you. LinkedIn can't. No one can tell you. Well, the school could tell you.
LinkedIn should be able to, because every placement office requires the kids to build a LinkedIn profile.
But they don't. Especially if they're software engineers, or they're like, I can go on to Michigan. I'm a mile from Michigan State's campus right now. I can go out there and randomly pull 100 students off and say, hey, do you have a LinkedIn profile? And I would guess 40% have one.
Interesting. Yeah. So,
and they never look at it.
So my daughter went through the Texas A&M system. So she graduated from Aggieland, and the college outplacement people, like she had to take a class on basically how to find a job. And part of that class was to create a LinkedIn profile. Like that was required in order to graduate. You had to do that. And my youngest is at OU. I'm going to be at Parents Weekend seeing the Boomer Sooners this weekend. And I think that I'm going to ask her what's required on her side. But the kids are wanting to do different stuff now. Like she's got this whole social media influencer business that she's running. Like it's ridiculous. Like she's got she's like a brand ambassador for different brands, and she has a ton of disposable income, this kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing that they have that ability kind of like to do that. I still don't, it is not difficult. Part of it is like higher ed is so far behind. I mean, we always talk about like the America in general is 5 years ahead. And when we talk about like kind of HR, TA technology, blah, 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 higher ed is so far behind. And it's again, part of it's just their mentality.
Yeah.
Like it's they make money still through career fairs, which is kind of funny and ridiculous. And it's their own little power world. So you're like, hey, you have to come on campus if you want to interview our students. And it's just none of it makes sense in a modern world. And so I'm keep waiting for like just somebody to rise up in that space and go, like this school figured it out and they've created this open environment where you can find every one of their students and connect with them. And like, no one's done it yet, but I'm like, I don't understand why. Like, it's the only thing you offer as a university is to get these people their career. and yet you are the biggest hindrance most of the time to getting them a career. Like, it's crazy to me that that's the case. All right.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going to completely left turn.
All right, let's go for it.
Your favorite measure of success in TA?
I have a very strong opinion. It's unpopular on this. So
we might share that.
Hires.
Flat out. Did you hire somebody?
You should hire somebody. Like that's what they're paying you for.
Did you put an ass in a seat?
Yeah, that's 100% of the job. And because you only do a portion of that job, then let's measure what you get a percentage of a hire that you touched, but it's still down to hires. It's no matter what. And when we start subdividing the job into like, oh, what about sourcers and coordinators, and fine, but somebody subdivided that job and said, I need to hire a headcount. And I can either have one more recruiter that produces 7 hires a month for me, or I can have a sourcer, but I still, with those headcount, I need 7 hires a month out of each headcount, out of that expense. So if you're just a sourcer, that's fine, but you better contribute to the equivalent of 7 hires.
Yeah.
Right.
Out of those 7 hires, you better have your name attached to the majority of them.
That's right. So, I mean, it is 100% about how many hires did you make. And there are some things on like how you did it. Like people get ticked. Oh, I made all these hires, but they all took me 6 months. Okay. There's a little bit of how just for customer service. So I think you have to measure like 75% is, did you get the hires done? And then the rest is, did you do it in a way that kept everybody happy? Did you do it fast enough? Did you do it, were people satisfied with you? Were you responsive to them? Did they feel like they had the warm and fuzzies when you interacted with them? There's
TA people listening and losing their minds because they're like, I'm an IT recruiter and I only make 2 hires a month, and Cheryl does our warehouse and she makes 50 hires a month, and they're going to think she's better. And you're like, no, they don't. People understand. People get the difference, right?
That's a fair argument. So I think that there's Rob McIntosh actually put out some standard metrics for recruiting years ago. It's on Wikipedia if you look for recruiting metrics or something. And I think it's pretty reasonable. And he actually did the dollars hired.
Yeah. Okay.
So salary hired. So the target is on. So that way it captures, okay, I do a whole bunch of lower cost people.
Yeah. $15 an hour. Yeah.
Right. So they're easier to find typically. And then, or I did one really expensive person, and those are hard to find. So, I think if you do the dollar amount found, that probably equals out. It gets a little complicated when you add in automation, like high volume stuff. If I've got Paradox in and it's doing the large majority of the stuff, and you can't fully automate recruiting. I've done it. I've tried a number of times.
But you can get 80% of the way there.
Yeah, you can. The problem is human beings want they agree to do things with other human beings.
Exactly.
So your ghosting rate doubles if you don't have them at least make contact and commit to show up to another person. Because
Yeah.
we as people want to be seen as people that do what we do and do what we say we're going to do. And if you fail to do what you said you're going to do to a machine, it doesn't matter. If you
I can
fail to
totally
do it,
solve. I can
then
still totally solve that with automation. It just is the perception is that I really care and want you and need you through automation, right? Like I can send you a video on your iPhone that says like, "Hey, Jason, it's so great that you accepted the interview. Can't wait to see you Monday. Let me know if you need anything." And
yeah,
it's like a video, and you're like, "Oh, okay, wow,"
you
And
might
then
be
I'm
able to
like,
get better.
and then like the next day, like I can bring that ghosting rate down super low, just again through automation, where it's the perception that, holy crap, this company really wants me,
Yeah,
right?
you might get better.
Yeah,
You still
you're not
have
gonna
to
get
have
perfect.
have a human touch.
My
I've tried it. I cannot tell you how many. I actually have lost count of the number of
the
companies that
test.
we've automated the recruiting for. I stood up when I was at Ronstad. I stood up a fully automated staffing company, and I took that to our CEO, and I was like, "Hey, we have a bunch of these extra VMS roles that we just don't even work on because
Yeah,
we don't think we're likely to get it, but we've got all the components. Why don't I build you a agency with no recruiters and
yeah.
fully automate this thing?" So we did. We built the thing, and she actually, it was kind of cool. I was going to take their leftovers and do it. She was like, "No, I want you to compete directly with our core business," which was amazing. I made no friends, by the way, within the Ronstad business.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, they were not fans of that.
There was a lot of recruiters that were like, "Those are my cherry orders. I can fill those." Nope. The
Why are you
AI
calling my
just, yeah,
candidate? That was
the
another one. Like,
automation just did
because
it.
my
Yeah.
machine, it just burned through that database like crazy. It would just power through messages, and people got so ticked. So lots of that internal agency nonsense
Oh
was
yeah.
going on at
Oh
the
yeah.
time. But we needed a person. We added a person into it to get them to show up to the client interviews. Because if they told us they would do it, even when they gave us the permission to submit form, permission to
Yeah.
represent form,
Yep.
even when they did that, about half the time they wouldn't show up on the interviews unless we
Yeah.
stuck a human being in that loop.
Hmm. Yeah. No, I think that's where everyone's going to figure that out as they build out this kind of AI automation. Is that's going to be the secret sauce in testing of figuring out where exactly does it work best to kind of layer that real person in and at what level. And again, I think it also it's not there's not going to be one winner here because it's dependent upon your mix of kind of openings versus high volume, high tech,
Yeah.
healthcare, blah blah blah. Like whatever that might be, everyone's mix. Is going to be a little bit different, and so your layering is going to be a little bit different.
That's actually where we play. That's our
Yeah,
space, right? So that's the RPOs come in, and we're like, all right, here's the stack that we recommend, and we'll bring with us. Here's what you've paid for. We want to augment with this thing in order to get us from point A to point B, and
yeah.
we'll propose a stack that makes sense with all the newest tools. That's how RPOs make money. Like there's an assumption. I think you actually may have had this assumption at one point that RPO recruiters are average recruiters or whatever. But
At best,
yeah,
average. That's again, this is me. This is my opinion.
yeah,
Is like what happens for our, and again, this is my opinion. Companies have a failing talent acquisition team.
yep,
They go out to RPO, and RPO can come in and say, "We can get you to average," and that's better than where they were. They could
yeah.
maybe get slightly above average. They'll never be outstanding because there's no ownership there. And again, my opinion.
Well,
Not trying to blow your company out of the water. Everyone's going to have different opinions of this. The RPO people, I think, are like, "No, we're way better." And I'm like, calm down. I've met your
but the
recruiters.
stats say. I mean, I guess with your presupposition that they started out sucking really bad, and then
Yes.
we made them better, that probably holds. But like the stats say, like if you look at LinkedIn's global talent trends,
Jason, no one that's amazing is having RPO come in. They're
oh,
not
I don't know.
amazing They're not amazing TA teams and go, "Come on in."
Oh, there's some
They're
great
like,
ones.
"Hey, we suck. Come on in."
No, there's some great ones. Jim D'Amico has RPO in his new shop at Caliber. You've got Melissa Thompson at Ford has RPO in place. There are great leaders in really big good
No, no,
companies
no.
that use RPO.
Chris Dunn at Marriott, they have RPO, right? Like, I mean,
They're a full
there's
RPO. Chris Dunn's one of the
no, no,
best people in the
no,
business.
No, they're not. They're not. They used to be. They're not anywhere like close to that now. But like the problem. Like, here's what I see is like for all that it's capacity. Like to me, it's you need if you're big enterprise, high volume, you need an RPO partner for capacity bubbles. You don't need an RPO, but yeah, if you're good, you really theoretically you would never need it. But like all of a sudden now you're up and down with your teams constantly. So for me, that's the capacity build that RPO gives you this lever that you could constantly have ready to go so that you never find yourself, like shortchanging like the business because you can't deliver,
Well, the outcomes. So if you look at the outcomes, like if you look at like the,
for those that are not watching this on YouTube, Jason's pulling up dashboards right now. No,
I have it. I have this.
I have it running live. Yeah.
Like the time to fill. I can cite three different sources.
By the way, that's my metric. That's my metric that I think is completely worthless. Time to fill.
All right, then Deloitte says 60% have better quality of hire when they go to RPO. That's a Deloitte deal.
Yeah, but Deloitte has no idea what they're talking about. How do they measure our quality of hire?
I don't know. You'd have to ask
exactly.
Deloitte.
They don't even know.
Report out in like last year. I remember Talent Board.
Aaron Spencer, if you're interested, if you're listening, it's Jason. I want to know how you measure quality of hire. They don't know how they measure quality of hire.
Talent Board candidate experience, 10% improvement in candidate experience.
So here's what I think. I think quality of applicant is the metric that TA leaders should focus on, and that is simply for every resume my recruiter sends to a hiring manager, did they decide to interview that person? So if I send them 10,
quality of candidates submitted.
Like quality of applicant, whatever, right? Like, I mean, we can, like, it's easier for me to go Q of A, right? So if you do 3 out of 10, you're batting 300. And in my estimation, you should be fired. I think we have to get as close to 1-to-1 as possible. I want to see 90% of my recruiters, because what I know then is, one, you're submitting great people, but more importantly, you have a great relationship with that hiring manager who trusts when you send them, they're automatically going to interview.
I think you might at best get 1 to 3, but nobody wants to make a decision on a single data point. They want to talk to a couple of people.
No. What I'm saying is every time I send a candidate,
you submit, they interview. Yeah. So
otherwise we have wasted. I look at it as a supply chain.
We call it quality of submit.
We have massive like waste in our talent supply chain.
Yeah.
Because we have hiring managers that just go, send me 10 more, send me 10 more. I'm like, no, shut up. I'm not going to send you 10 more. I do like how you measure, like you're saying, hey, ultimately it's the hire, because you and I both know here's what happens. CEO comes down to the CHRO, head of TA, whatever, and says, hey, third quarter, we need to increase hiring by 25% to meet these, business goals that we have.
Yeah.
And almost every one of these corporate CHROs or heads of talent will go, okay, we'll work harder, we'll make it happen. And then they fail and get fired. We see this all the time in our industry. Yeah. And so what I want to know is, if you're a head of TA or CHRO, you should know the capacity of your recruiting team. What's this funnel look like? Mm-hmm. And what do I need? So that when they come and say, hey, we need 25% more, I can go, by the way, we're at 93% capacity. So I have 7% I can give you. I could probably whip them for another 5. I can maybe get to 105% for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's only going to give you 10% of what you need. This other 15%, here's exactly the resources I need to make that. Right now, we're not having those conversations.
Yeah. So it's our business to know how to do that. So we have dashboards that's the thing. So everybody from the recruiter all the way to the people, the person that runs all of everything, all of our engagements. They know what the targets are, who's meeting their targets, how much capacity that we think is in the thing. We have a capacity model. So we say, all right.
And by the way, like every recruiter is going to have a different capacity, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're going to have some A players, you're going to have some BC players, and there's going to be some variance in there. And I always tell people, like, don't expect, like, because you have super recruiter Jason, has a much higher capacity than everybody else, that everybody should reach that. Like, no, like even Jason shouldn't be held to that standard. There has to be this kind of like 90% capacity measure, right?
Well, I think that's actually where RPO comes in. Like we'll set an expectation. Like we do have a standard. right?
Yeah.
And it's based on the types of jobs and the number of jobs. And we have a mix that everyone's expected to do. And if you're really good and you're really fast, yeah, we all work from home.
Yep.
Meritocracy, you get your job done, fine, whatever. I'm not, if you want to change your laundry out,
Yeah.
between
Do your thing.
calls, I'm not
Yeah.
going to argue about it. So it is all about who gets the job done in our world. And if they're able to do it, that's great. And
Yeah.
so we put people on that sort of expectation, and they tend to do well. The other thing that you can do is you can level the playing field with the tools that you give somebody. So, for example, the tech that I've been building. So I buy stuff, but
Yeah.
more now we are building our own tech. So the tech that I'm building is to pull all the agentic and the Gen AI stuff into a recruiter's workflow to make them faster and more efficient at their jobs, but also to give visibility to what can happen, and to make it where every hiring manager has the same experience, no matter, like, if there's going to be a spectrum of great recruiter and mediocre recruiter. Everywhere there's a spectrum of some sort.
Yeah.
All of our hiring managers have the same experience because Gen AI writes the status updates, right? And then the recruiter just has to go and edit that from now on. And Gen AI will write the summary, the write-up summary of a candidate with the pros and cons, and the recruiter just has to edit from there. So we level the playing field amongst recruiters. And I said this at the HireEZ thing, where I've always thought HireEZ was good at taking an okay recruiter and making them pretty good. And
Mhm.
now I think the agentic thing is taking a okay recruiter and making them great as recruiters. I've always thought that was a strength of HireEZ's. That's why I think they've won. And Seek Out I think still exists, though they've become less relevant in my world. And it's because they're really good at taking people who are really good recruiters and making them great. Well, there's only so many of those. Like, I've
Yeah.
got Ronnie Bratcher, who's my favorite sourcer, best sourcer I've ever worked with. He works for us now,
Yeah.
right? So I finally convinced him to go in-house, and he came in-house just the right time. He had a big health problem as soon as he did.
Yeah.
But we finally convinced him to come in-house. But we have some of the best of the best. And we
Yeah.
use the best of the best differently. The best of the best are used to pull up everybody else. And then the hope is that we're providing experience for everybody so that they get the experience of having the best of the best from everybody in the end.
What's super interesting is, you're talking about taking an average recruiter and making them better. And to me, that still comes back to management of performance and accountability. And most corporate teams still are really bad at that. They feel it's micromanaging. Um, their ATSs don't really give them great management dashboards to tell them what one recruiter is doing versus another.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm shocked by that we're in 2025 and we don't have great recruiter metrics for corporate TA leaders or HR leaders to really drill down. But like you and I both know that's our business. So on the staffing
Yeah.
side, you see that. On the RPO side, you see it. And I'm always like, and then when I talk to the ATS folks, they're just like, well, they're not asking for this. Well, of course they're not. But
I'm
why
not
don't
sure
we
what
start?
people talk about. Like, what do you
Why
talk
aren't
about
we
in your leadership?
building product that is going to make them amazing? Like, I don't understand that.
I don't know how to run a leadership meeting that way. Like, what are you looking at in your leadership meeting in order to drive the discussion? Like, what can you possibly talk about if you're not
Yeah,
leading?
our
And if
hiring
you're
manager satisfaction scores, like, it's so dumb. Like, it makes no sense.
like, I can tell you exactly what my leadership meeting is every single week. We have 4 data points we're looking at, and we're drilling deep into each of those 4
Yeah,
data points.
for
That's
sure.
it. There are
Yeah,
4, and one of them is, which of our recruiters is falling behind that we need to go and talk to. But
yeah.
that's at the
I tell
very
people,
senior leadership
I literally
level.
tell people all the time, if I have a recruiter who's failing, I can go to that recruiter, we can have a conversation, we can see if what's going on, dig into their numbers, look at their funnel, see if there's something, there. But if I simply say, "Hey, for a month, we're gonna increase your activity numbers by 25%."
Mhm.
After 30 days, they're magically a really good recruiter again, and
Yeah.
everyone acts like, "Oh god, Tim turned it around." You're like, "It's not that hard. It's just not that
It
hard."
is. Yeah, you made this many phone calls, now you're gonna make this many phone calls,
It's just
right?
not that hard. By the way, recruiting is really hard. I get that it's really hard, but it's not that hard to understand the game that we're playing, from that standpoint.
My favorite thing is every once in a while you run into a recruiter that has really leaned into the tech, and, like, oh man, they're the best recruiter on the planet. They're producing way more. And they're just secretly like, I just get in the CRM and I run a search and I
Yeah,
send
I
it
know.
out to all these people at the same
Yep,
time and
I
they
know.
get back to me. And like this one guy, I do this all the time. I run into these pockets. They're
Using
great.
the technology. Yeah,
Yeah, I love that.
it's so funny. Okay, I'm gonna get you out of here on this.
Okay.
One AI recruiting tool that you've looked at that you think is cool that people should look at.
Oh, so I'll tell you my current favorite, and this is going to sound self-serving. I'll tell you the one, and then I'll tell you the one from just the general market. So we built an automated sourcing tool, that's SourceEngage, and it is a step or two beyond what LinkedIn rolled out in their automated sourcing
Yeah,
agent. So I think because we don't just look at LinkedIn, we look at a great deal of sources.
yeah,
So we built a thing like that, and I got the best stats out of that I've ever seen. Literally 5x the hires from a sourcer.
nice.
5x. It's insane.
Yeah.
So I've never had as much success with a tool
Are
as
you
I've
gonna
had with.
private label? Are you gonna private label and start selling it?
We're not private label. We just sell it. Like if you want it, you can
Oh,
come buy
all
it from
right.
us. Yeah, we do. We sell it digitally. If you just want to buy that, you can do that if you want. Yeah, cielotalent.com. You can come find us.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do sell. It's called SourceEngage. The one in the market, like if I were to pick a market facing tool, I'm super impressed with HireEZ.
Yeah.
They've come so far. Last year's release, their CRM release, I thought was a huge step for them, and they did really really well with that. Um, the follow up release to that this year, I'm super excited about. It's going into all of my instances, and I have well over 100 HireEZ engagements, like all
Yeah.
with all of our different clients. So we're rolling it out broadly right now. I guess the other one, which has become ubiquitous now, but Paradox has become just a big
Oh,
one.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just a.
That my thing with and people that listen to the show know I love Paradox, and partly because the customers that use it are like, hey, they said they were going to do this thing, and then we paid the money, and
And
they
they did
did
the
the
thing.
thing, and it worked. And you're just like that. And people go, well, shouldn't that how it should be? And you're
Yeah.
like, but you don't understand. In our world, that's not how it works a lot of the time.
Did you see the shout out they got on CNBC?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was nuts. When the CEO of Chipotle shows up and calls you out by name as the person that
Yeah.
helped turn around the business
Yeah.
with Jim Cramer there,
Well,
winner,
no, and
winner.
you have because you have so like again, like you just have so many of these companies, especially at high volume, that they're having to shut down a day a week. They're not being able to, like, and I like when I
Mhm.
was at Applebee's, we had this issue all the time. It's like you staff for the business you want, not the business you have. And
Right.
so, because what will happen is people try to keep cutting staff wise. And if somebody comes up to a Chipotle and they have to wait 15 minutes to make for a burrito, they're going to be like, bye, I'm going to go someplace else.
Right.
And so it's like, how do you make sure, but that, so like, again, like if you're properly staffed, you deliver great customer service, blah, blah, blah. Mine is a piece of CodeSignal, which is the ability to start delivering white collar work samples, which I think is amazing through
Mm.
AI. So like from a sales standpoint, we always think like hiring salespeople is this like rich witchcraft. Like we
Mhm.
don't really know. Everyone thinks they have their secret magic question they ask or whatever.
Mhm.
And then you constantly see great performing salespeople go to a new company and fail, or vice versa. They were a failure. They got a shot at this company and all of a sudden they're amazing. And what I like about CodeSignal is because we know like work samples is probably the number one predictor of somebody being good, is you can have these real life, like, okay, hey, Jason, here's the scenario, blah, blah, blah. Sell to me right now this pen or whatever,
Mhm.
right? But they do it more in context of your business. And like they have this real live back and forth like work sample. And I'm like, oh wow, I love that. That's really cool.
I haven't seen that. I need to take a
Yeah.
look. I haven't seen that one. You brought
Yeah.
me a
It's
new
awesome.
tech. That's a
Bam.
rare treat. I'll take a look at that
Yes.
one. Yeah,
Yes. I got him. All
you
right.
got me.
Jason, how can people find you?
LinkedIn, my handle there is JazzRobber, JASROBER. Actually, you can find me at that handle everywhere: Twitter,
Yeah.
LinkedIn, all the places you can find me.
Awesome.
And I'm at Cielo, so cielotalent.com. You can check us all out too.
Cool. Next conference you're going to be at?
I am going to Unleash.
Awesome. I'll see you over there. Unleash. And so if you're going to be out at Unleash, you can stop and find Jason and talk shop or myself. So thank you for coming on. Appreciate you
We should
for
find a
doing
time to
this.
catch up while we're there.
Yes.
I said at the HireEZ thing, it's funny. We know we run in the same circles, but we must like pass on our perimeters. Like we don't hang out ever. So I'd love to spend some more
100%.
time hanging out some.
Awesome. Thanks. Hey, everybody. That's another episode. HR Famous. We're out. We'll try to do better next time. See you later.